Hey guys, I want to go over Chapter 3 quiz, so make sure that you watch this whole video so you can see where you went wrong and what you did right as you took this Chapter 3 of Mice and Men quiz. So, let's start with question 1. You were supposed to write a somebody wanted but so then summary paragraph. We've practiced with this a couple times in the past. You wrote one with your teachers, with Mrs. Armeno and with me and Mrs. Tiemann, all together for Chapter 1. And then we also wrote one for half of Chapter 3 last week, and you guys were supposed to have rewritten it. Actually, no, we wrote one for Chapter 3 the week before, and you're supposed to have rewritten it last week, okay? So if you haven't been practicing these things, then yeah, it makes sense that you don't know what to do for this question. A lot of you guys said you didn't know. Well, you need to make sure that you're keeping up with what we're doing in class. Otherwise, yeah, these quizzes are going to be hard for you. So what does somebody wanted but so then paragraph is a summary focusing on one character in a story. So this one tells us to include a description of Curly because that's who we're focusing on for the second half of Chapter 3. A lot of you guys did not write about the correct spot. A lot of you were talking about Candy and Candy's dog. Well, that was the paragraph that we have already written. This one is supposed to be focused on Curly. We're supposed to include a detailed desire that Curly wants for the wanted part, identify the problem that Curly has in the but sentence, explain what Curly does when he faces the obstacle in the so sentence, and then finally how the situation turns out for Curly in the then sentence. And we should probably point out the theme because it has something to do with how things turned out for Curly. Also make sure that you're using complete sentences. Each part of the somebody wanted but so then paragraph should be 5 sentences long. So we're going to look at a somebody wanted but so then paragraph that I wrote. First sentence, Curly is the boss's angry son who intimidates and threatens anyone who he feels will take it. You want to describe the character for the somebody sentence. The wanted sentence. In the middle of Chapter 3, Curly wants to find Slim because he thinks that he may be with Curly's wife. So that's the desire that Curly has in that second half of the chapter. He wants to find Slim because he fears that he might be with his wife. But sentence. Let's identify the problem. However, Slim says that he has not been with her, so that's the problem that Curly has now. Now he doesn't know where his wife's been, and he's going to become frustrated. The so sentence. So what does Curly do about this? So Curly becomes frustrated and notices Lenny is smiling. And this is how it turns out for him. Then he takes his anger out on Lenny by fighting Lenny, and he eventually loses to Lenny's strength and power, emphasizing that theme of power there. So this is a good somebody wanted but so then paragraph. Each part is a sentence long, and it gives us a good picture of what happened in the second half of Chapter 3. Now let's look at the rest of the questions. Question 2. What device is used in the following quote? He ain't no cuckoo, said George. This is a metaphor. A cuckoo is actually a type of bird. And you could have looked that up on Google if you want to see what a cuckoo is, but it's like a cuckoo bird, right? So he's saying he's not like a bird. It's a metaphor. He's comparing Lenny to a bird. He's saying he's not one, though. He's not dumb, okay? That's what he's saying. He's comparing Lenny to a metaphor. Or I'm sorry, he's comparing Lenny to a bird, so it's a metaphor. Comparing two things without using like or as. Number 3, what does this quote reveal about George? A lot of you guys said that he was funny or that he was rude. Well, he wasn't being mean to Lenny here. He was actually saying he's not cuckoo. He's not crazy. All right? So he wasn't being rude to George or to Lenny. And he wasn't making a funny joke either. He was just using an idiom, a common expression. All right? So what can we say about George? A lot of you guys did get this one right. You said that he's a loyal friend or that he's a defender and protector of Lenny. Very nice. Question 4. You were supposed to sort what part of Steele is being used for each quote. In addition to what character traits can we learn about those characters from those quotes. So let's look at the first one. She's going to make a mess. They're going to be a bad mess about her. She's a jailbait, all set on the trigger. That Curly got his work cut out for him. So here, this is something that Carlson is saying, right? So it's speech. And then we can also say that, or I'm sorry, this isn't what Carlson's saying. This is George is talking here, sorry. And George is nervous about Curly's wife, how she's going to make a mess. So we can say that he's kind of a nervous person here. And then finally, let's look at this second quote on the right. Curly's shoulders dropped and squared. All right, so this is telling us what Curly looks like. And if somebody's shoulders are dropping and they're squaring, this is like his stance getting ready for a fight. So we could say that Curly is being threatening here. And then finally, he backed up until he was against the wall. Lenny's hands remained at his sides. Lenny covered his face with huge paws and bleated with terror. So these are all things that Lenny is doing, so these are his actions. And we can say that he's frightened or disoriented because he doesn't know how to react to Curly fighting him. Question 5. Why does Candy agree to give up his dog? The dog is sick and needs to be put out of his misery. Okay, so finally Candy decides, yeah, you guys are probably right. He's sick and he needs to be put out of his misery. All right, and plus he kind of just gave up, right? He was convinced that there's nothing he can do for this dog. What does Candy agreeing to give up his dog reveal about him? So a lot of you guys talked about how he is old, but it's more about how he's weak because he eventually gave up defending his dog. So that was the right answer. A lot of you guys did a good job with this one, matching the symbols to what they represent. So Candy's dog represents friendship. Candy's money represents hope for the characters in the story. The red dress represents trouble. And hands, just like with Candy's missing hand, that represented how he doesn't have strength. The hands in this story, the hands of Curly and of Lenny, represent power, especially of Lenny's, because he crushed Curly's hand inside of his own. So that represents power. One theme that would work for this chapter is hopelessness, because sometimes people make difficult decisions about loved ones, leaving them feeling hopeless about their future. All right, this makes sense because Candy made a difficult decision to let his dog go, and that made him feel pretty hopeless. And then finally, the second half of the chapter is more about the fight between Curly and Lenny. So the theme of power, how people often resort to violence in order to control a situation, makes sense because Curly had no other option. He wanted to know where his wife was, but he couldn't think of anything to do, so he decided to be that bully archetype and try to bully Lenny and fight him, but that didn't turn out so well for him. So that is the quiz. Please just email me if you have any questions about that.